The world runs on stories they want you to believe, about how power works, about who the good guys are, about what's possible. We don't buy it. They called us idiots for asking the questions that cut too close to the truth. So we went underground, because right now the truth is hard to keep alive in the open. From our location, we intercept the narratives meant to guide, distract, or divide. We trace the money. We map the power. We connect the patterns they hope you won't see.
Don't forget to say funny.
And sometimes we are funny. We stay hidden for now, not out of fear, but because the mission now requires shadows. Until the day comes when the masks come off. This is Idiot Seeking Village. Welcome to the breakdown. Welcome to the village.
What is this freshest of artisanally handcrafted hells that you have for us today?
Well, I thought we should watch one of your besties, the man you look up to the most, your good friend, Alex Karp of Palantir.
If there is a CEO celebrity lookalike contest, you realize you're Alex Karp, right?
Yeah, of course.
Just want to put that one out there.
We get this little Palantir started.
So what do we got here? Oh, this is the Axios interview. Right.
He's going to have pearls of wisdom. This is going to be next level Tate when it comes to information that you can rely on and believe in.
Can I tell you just one of the most disappointing things of adulthood was realizing that all of these jerk faces who name their companies after elements from the Lord of the Rings series, like apparently completely missed the fucking point and don't even realize that they're basically working for Sauron.
I think they hope to be Sauron.
You know what? Again, maybe this is just my naivete, and I thought, people are good and they want to do good things, and Palantir. I mean, fuck, man, worst of the worst. I mean, you know what? I take that back. They're bad. I don't know necessarily that they're worse than that Anduril or some of these others that are going on here. But anyway, this is like the worst blunt rotation ever, is these guys. But yeah, let's get started on Alex Karp.
I know you're used to CEOs who don't answer your question. I'm going to directly answer your question. I get yelled at all the time for Ukraine, ICE, Israel, and generally telling the truth, which I would call,
Generally.
The chance of world survival goes up as America becomes stronger and more dominant.
Okay.
Alex Karp, thanks for having us into the Palantir lair in Manhattan. Welcome to the Axios Show. You're CEO, co-founder of Palantir. What the hell is Palantir?
So can we just talk about the fact that, like any true asshole, he's wearing a bicycling jersey?
I'm like, what is that?
No, that's a quarter zip or half zip. Yeah, quarter zip. But it's basically in cycling jersey form. Now I know this guy is basically an asshole cyclist.
Is that his Peloton wear?
It must be. Anyway, let's continue.
Well, it depends who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to you, we are growing the GDP of the U.S. We are the part of the GDP of the AI economy where things are useful, either on the battlefield or commercially. And we're the only AI company with a real spread function to the working class Americans. If it's the third or fourth conversation, it would be more like we went long on the reality that large language models were useful in their application in our software and are not going to be as performant as people want outside of it.
You talk about a single pane of glass, right, that connects AI, connects data, connects analytics. Let's give viewers an example. I'm a commander in the battlefield. What can Palantir tell me about my assets?
Well, if you're a commander in the battlefield for the first time, you have access to all your assets. When I say all, I mean also assets of foreign countries you work with that are sharing a subset of the data. So I'm looking at this pane of glass, and what does it show me? Well, it probably at this point is showing, again, it depends what you're doing, but it's probably showing, if you're, say, doing a complex operation, it's showing you where the plane should fly, where the troops should be, where the missiles should go, where they shouldn't go, And again, it's doing this off of data sets that were not available to you last year. It's also be able to predict where you should put your assets. It can and will soon be able to pick up what kind of missiles do you put on what kind of targets. So do you put your really expensive missiles on your really expensive targets? It will at some point, and again, this is one of the most important things that's overlooked, be able to totally orchestrate the supply chain. So what are you building? How are you building it? Where is it be building? And what companies are doing it, understanding the costs for those companies, which is currently something that's very, very hard for those companies. So there's the kind of sexy, violent part of war, which obviously in this case would mean, honestly, for this commander, what it basically will mean is you will be ahead of your adversary. You'll be able to predict their actions. You'll be able to put the best effectors on the most important targets and the cheaper ones on less important targets, i.e., by the way, honestly, the most important thing Palantir does is prevent war.
So that
Yes.
sounds very useful. Why are
So, first and foremost, nothing he has described to this point is any different from any competent war planning done by any general or set of military brass in the last several thousand years. What he's talking about is exactly just what military planning is. This is basically Karl von Clausewitz, just with shitty hair and an ugly ass bicycle jersey.
I guess it's more like for real time that like 100 miles away somebody got blown up. It will hopefully tell you in real time that is no longer available to you. But I think what I don't understand is that if you have this telling you it's the best place to put your shit, and somebody else is using their their best place, you kind of cancel each other out.
Wait, say that again?
Meaning he's like, you're going to know where to put your stuff, where the best place to put this is, and where the best place to put that is. Well, what do you think my version of you is doing? And so I'm going to be like,
Oh, yeah, on the
I'll
other side of the
think that
battlefield.
eventually. And I'm like, okay, so they're thinking that I'm going to use this program to tell me to go there, so I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go there instead. So you're back to square one again. You're back to normal thinking of like you're trying to outthink your opponent and what he thinks you're going to do.
Right. He's just computerized that whole process, which is exactly what, military brass have been doing for centuries. They work off the information they have, and your opponent is also working off the information they have. And where there is a meaningful difference, right, an arbitrage opportunity, to use these guys' nomenclature, right, that's where you win and you take advantage, and that's where you get opportunities. But it's nothing new. So anyway, so he's, I just want to point out, he's not describing a brand new system or process or something that people just haven't done. He's just doing it in a private sector company.
Yeah, I think everybody knows at this point shooting $1 million missiles at $300 drones is not a good idea. We figured that out without your programming.
Well, I actually would push back on that. Which people are suspicious? So, it's really interesting. I was watching someone on TV who was like, I talk to special operators, I talk to military people, they love to Palantir. Okay, so I'm just going to say, for the sake of being somewhat of a jerk, the people I care about, the people on the front line in factories, the people driving trucks, the people doing things, the people who've used our products, the war fighters. How did we get our business off the ground? War fighters who are sacrificing their lives went to generals and said, I don't care what stars you have, I'm coming home alive. A lot of those people are suspicious of us now. Try to take
It
the
gets you a
product out of their
court-martial.
hands. Almost all of our clients, meaning people who've bought our product, started off as Palantir skeptics. And I've gone into tens of thousands of meetings. Now, currently, when I meet the Palantir skeptic, I'm like, that's the person who's going to buy, because they have legitimate questions like, is this product being used to take away my right to go have a hot dog with a coworker I'm flirting with while being married? Which honestly,
Fuck does that have
I
to do
think
with
is the
anything?
God-given right of people in this country. Can I take the day off and tell my employer I'm working when I'm not? Great. Maybe you shouldn't do that, but I support that. Can I have views that are deviant from my bosses? Actually, we have an environment here where you can have any view you want, but let's just say somebody here hates what we're doing at ICE, hates what we're doing in Israel, and hates what we're doing in Ukraine, and doesn't somehow want to express it. They're would be incorrect to think they'll be penalized for it, but they think that. Can I have that view at home in my house? What I would tell those people is, listen carefully to the people who are saying we're doing surveillance. Listen to every word they say. Write those words down. Spend 10 minutes looking at our product. And, you decide.
zoom out beyond Palantir and society, how worried are you about a surveillance state?
So our primary worry should be, are our enemies so scared of us that they do not fight with us? They
And
don't.
who's our enemies?
Wow, way to dodge that
I mean, you
question.
pick your, like, the usual. We do not sell to China. We don't sell to Iran. We don't sell to Russia. I actually would say adversaries, not enemies, because I think when you get in the enemy thing, it's a way of being dysfunctional. But like, are people scared of us? Do terrorists plan terrorist attacks against us, or do they feel that they shouldn't because they're so scared? And by the way, that's the single best way to ever stop wars. The primary evidence for
All right. So first off, yeah, what the fuck, man? So first off, if I know if I'm a terrorist, right, and I want to attack New York or whatever, and I know Palantir exists and is monitoring all the digital channels because it's a fucking computer database, guess what I'm not going to use to communicate my plans and engage with people who are part of this conspiracy? I'm not going to use fucking computers. I'm going to use dead drops. I'm going to use paper notes. I'm going to use some other form of signaling that doesn't come across Palantir's radar. So one. Two, he completely sidesteps the whole surveillance state question by going, well, don't you want to be safe? I'm sorry, was it Ben Franklin, right? People who trade liberty for safety deserve neither, right? Like, he's just completely avoids and ignores that.
But does he know what terrorists are? If they're scared? Do you think most of these terrorists that usually mess with us are scared? They don't give a shit if they live or die.
Right.
What are you going to scare them for? That you'll kill more of them first? What the fuck is wrong with this guy? For them, it's a great honor to die.
the primary evidence for a surveillance state in the West is not government on consumer. It's company knowing every single action you have at all times. And we walk around with surveillance devices called electronic devices, and every single thing we do is monitored, not, I think, primarily so people can eviscerate or have an understanding of, am I shagging with too many people on the side and lying to my partner or lying by omission, because they want to sell us like cornflakes. That's the reality of life in the West. Can the government surveil your patterns of behavior? Like, it's called pattern of life surveillance, which is a very, very, very important way of finding terrorists and in general criminals, because like everyone has a pattern.
So you're saying it's worth it?
No, I'm not saying that. Here, the problem is these things require very, very precise tools. Yes, we are monetizing the fact that these decisions are difficult. We're monetizing the fact that they're hard. We're monetizing the fact that they're important.
About how AI can increase prosperity, both of the individual and of the country. Go dark with me for a second. You are a truth teller. What should we worry about AI? How can it go wrong?
Well, it could go wrong in lots of ways. But again, there I would say we need to absorb a lot of risk there, because it's either going to go right and wrong for us, or it's going to go right and wrong for, for China, which we're in a competition. At the very least, we're in high competition.
What about for the individual?
No decision is without risk. And the risk we have to absorb here is going long on this, because it's not like we're not doing this in a vacuum. We are going to be the dominant player, or China's going to be the dominant player, and there will just be very different rules depending on who wins. And we cannot rely on anyone else to do this in our network of allies, because Europe has given up on technology. And actually, the Arab and non-Arab Middle East are closest to what you see at AI adoption. But de facto, we are by far the leader of our coalition. So it's like when people are worried about surveillance, it's not, honestly, of course, there are huge dangers there. But, it's like you will have far fewer rights if America's not in the lead. And I'll tell you the other risk that, again, I think it doesn't get enough attention. Again, what portion of the wealth creation is available to the average person? I'm pretty sure we're in our infancy. So in a world where Palantir could grow 10x, what does that mean to the person on the factory floor? How much are their real wages?
Company, they will benefit zero, and you're watching everything they do and reporting them for thought crime.
Just going to grow. Like, and if the answer is, 5% roughly at inflation, can you blame them for not being upset? And so, like, I think the primary risk of AI is social instability. Like, the person
And what form will that take?
Pretty crazy populist movements that obviously make no sense. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, we're going to make, the government is going to run grocery stores.
Are you worried about violence, indolence?
Well,
Paging
dysfunction and then
Mamdani.
violence. Like you talk.
What is indolence?
Why you gotta call me out on my vocabulary?
I would figure if any of the two of us would know what that means, it would be you.
It's true. I have a general gist of what it is, but I couldn't possibly describe it to you. It's just one of those words. I love the fact that his example of. I was waiting for him to say something communism or socialism, and I love that the immediate response, this is filmed in November of 25, was to go after Zohran Mamdani's whole state sponsored, city sponsored grocery stores, because the whole reason he's talking about public grocery stores is because there are no private grocery stores serving those neighborhoods. Is the free market has failed to serve the neighborhoods that need it the most.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he points that. And also, he's like, what was he saying before? I love the truckers, love the miners, love the workers, this and that. He has yet to explain how him watching every single thing they do, right? I mean, I hate to say it this way, literally Orwell's 1984, right? Type of totalitarian supervisory society. He has yet to explain how that's going to benefit the people.
Yeah, good luck with that. So indolence means the avoidance of activity or exertion, basically laziness.
Okay.
Talk to European leaders, and they will literally look you in private and tell you negative GDP isn't a problem because the quality of our revenue is going up. They believe this. This is clearly wrong. It will not work. It's going to lead to violence, indolence. It's going to lead to everything you don't want. And okay, so then the American.
I'm going to call him out right here. Look, our entire financial system is predicated on the line going up, right? Like capitalism doesn't function with negative growth. All the numbers require them to move up. That's why we have inflation and not deflation, right? That's why so many things work the way they do. It's why they're so broken the way they are, in the specific ways they are, because of that. But for him to say that Europeans are like, we don't care if our GDP shrinks because the quality of those earnings goes up, that is actually the approach that since COVID, so many American business leaders have taken. Like Ford and GM, for instance, had an absolute banner year in 2025 of car sales. And how did they do it? They actually sold fewer vehicles than they did pre-COVID. Why? Because the entire auto industry has taken an approach that they learned during COVID, which is, I'm happy to sell fewer vehicles if it means I don't have to rebate and discount them. So I can sell fewer vehicles for a higher sticker price and I'm going to net more profits, which sounds reasonable. But then you realize, what does that mean? It means consumers like you or I are paying way more for vehicles than we used to. And that is adding to the inflation and the cost of living crisis, is that you need a vehicle to survive in America, right? You need a vehicle to survive outside of any major city globally. Right. And they're saying, well, we're going to gouge you on that because it's more profitable for us. So for him to say that the Europeans are wrong on this, he's actually going directly against what is now the standard business operating practice for major companies across the world.
Conversion is U.S. builder, highly educated builder who's asking technical, proximate questions are likely to do well. What about everyone here? How well does your camera person do?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we've talked about who will benefit from this prosperity, but what occupations, what types of businesses should be freaking the hell out?
Okay, let me give you the way you should, again, because I think the actual who should not be freaking out is pretty crazy to most people. The thing about the commodity nature of LLMs is it commodifies general knowledge. My advice to people around here is, there's a couple schools you should go to if you get into. Yale's one, Stanford's one. There's some schools you maybe should go to. Otherwise, go to the cheapest school and come to Palantir, or just come here. That's my honest advice. So to people like family members, others, evers. So I pick on Yale because it's a crazy strong, especially for humanities. Almost everyone I work with that writes is a Yale grad. So it's a very, very strong school. But like, if you are the kind of person that would have gone to Yale, would have kind of classically high IQ, and you have generalized knowledge, but it's not specific, you're effed. If, on the other hand, you have specific domain knowledge, like, how do I actually bend the metal of the hull on a ship? How do I actually write a script that allows me to target terrorists in Palantir? How do I impute the problem in this complicated device that's going wrong that otherwise would be fixed by a Japanese engineer while being a high school grad? How do I put the cement in a factory with such precision that you can build a factory like it was built in Taiwan in America? How do I do anything with deep, specific, particularly what's considered vocational training? Those people are going to make a lot more money simply because you can turn it any way you want. But at the end of the day, within a relative rapid amount of time, you will get paid downstream of the value you create.
So an electrician is going to be a lot better off than a lame Yale grad.
The Yale grad will have to learn something specific.
Domain expertise.
Domain expertise.
What dark forces are you worried about getting?
Let's just talk about that for a second. At what point in the history of humanity has commoditizing that kind of specialized knowledge ever resulted in rising wages, right? Like supply and like the need for people to run specific functions doesn't correlate with their value to that function. Like for instance, if you think about nurses, right? Mm-hmm. Nurses are critical to the recovery, health, and well-being of a medical patient in a hospital. Right. Yet nurses are amongst the most put upon and worst paid professions within that entire sector of the economy. Yet they are critical. You could not do anything in a hospital without nurses. So Alex is saying here, right, that to use his analogy, like a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon or a vascular surgeon, right, that's the direction you have to go in, and that's going to be rewarded appropriately, which is already what it is, right? Yeah. But the people who are actually critical to making it happen are these generalists, right? The people who have enough knowledge to be able to work across domains, work across expertise, and make the connective tissue of everything work together. He's saying they're not valuable.
And most of those doctors' knowledge base depreciates with time. So I don't see the benefit in a lot of that stuff.
Well, you become more specialized, right? You become even better and better and better at a very specific thing, but you become worse and worse at everything else. Right, exactly. So like either you continue to get specialists in ever narrower fields, or you lose some of those competencies. But you're not always going to need all those competencies all at once at the same time. So how are you going to compensate those people, right? How are those people going to make a living? How are they going to develop, the practical experience that leads them into the specialty? Like you don't start, like if you're a doctor, right? Let's just stick with the surgeon. You start as a doctor, you do rounds through all of the various departments, right? You go through ICU, you go through emergency care, right? You go through post-op, everything, right? You go through OBGYN, you go through cardiac, blah, 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 blah. You don't just jump right into a specialty and then never look back.
Yeah, I think they're really, running their brains a little far with this. I think AI for at least for the foreseeable future is going to be like the internet on steroids. You're just going to have the ability to do things faster, quicker, more detailed. And that's kind of like where the stasis we're going to be for a while. Then you'll have robots and stuff like that, or you'll have just more people able to do that without requiring vast amounts of education anymore. So colleges might be in trouble.
What he's also touching on, what he's not touching on, right, is just how people get paid currently and the dynamics of our entire economic system. Like he's like, these people are going to do well. All right, Alex, who's going to pay them? Right. And where's the money going to come from? Like right now, what he's not saying is people like him and Palantir are going to be in charge of that, right? Because they're going to be directing and dictating where the asset allocation should go for maximum return, just like his Battlefield example that he gave, and that you all will specialize. You'll be this perfect little cog in this perfect little machine, and you'll run a specific little function as a good little worker bee, and you'll be well compensated for it. That's not a free society, right? Yeah. That is even more totalitarian and unfree than what we have today.
Yeah, it seems like the goal is like, oh, you're going to be working less because we're going to have so much money. I'm like, well, who's making all the money? Because somebody has to make the money, and who's creating these things to give you the money. So if you're making all the money, you're the same people who hate to pay taxes, you're going to distribute it to the people willingly?
At no point in the history of humanity has, let's just say you're a worker, right? You're working 40 hours a week, and a system or tool or process gets implemented that doubles your productivity, right? Plus 100% productivity. Do you then double your take-home pay? No. Do you work half as many hours to produce the same? No. What happens is you continue to work for the same, you continue to work just as much, and your bosses will reap the benefits of it, right? Think about the classic example here is Eli Whitney and the cotton gin, right? Eli Whitney created the cotton gin because he's like, man, slavery fucking sucks. And if I create this machine that's going to, make that process so much more efficient, you won't need slaves anymore. What happened? Instead of going, oh, okay, we can get the same amount of money with little to no effort. Well, now we can fill that effort gap with this machine, and now we can make tons of money. Did that end slavery? No. Did it improve the lives of people? Absolutely not. That's exactly what Alex Karp is getting to right now, and the exact same things he's talking about. He's selling this utopian vision of how things will work when he has all the power and the money, and him and his friends have all the power and the money, and it just has never worked out that way.
Yeah,
there are a lot of dark forces, and I just want to keep repeating, it's like
Are you more concerned about
No, I'm much more
individuals?
concerned that we fail in America and that we don't dominate, and therefore there's like a lame UN-driven discussion about human rights that obviously only serves people who like somehow want to live in a world that doesn't work.
Something that's always baffled me, everyone in Silicon Valley, a lot of moguls are building bunkers. What do they know that we don't? What do they
I like
fear
this guy.
that we maybe should?
I think they have the same fears you do. They just have more money. People who do well in Silicon Valley are more mathematically adept than they may realize or than other people, and have an ability to operate. And so again, if you just take odds, it's like, a lot like it's no different. I bet you a lot of hedge funders have these, just like you're doing a regression. But like, it's like, I remember I end up talking to political people, and I was like, it's like when you talk to campaigns, they're like, we have a 25% chance of losing. And they're like, and then they're off drinking champagne. And anyone in tech is like, you have a 25% chance of non-recoverable death. So it's a different, a lot of this is just mathematical.
Well, so while we're on that, in Silicon Valley, they talk about the P-doom, the probability that super intelligent AI is going to end us all. Elon Musk
a lot of
is
okay,
has-
you know what? I'm happy to talk about anything that like I think.
Do you have a P-doom?
I worry much more about we lose the race. Like again, I'm very culturally specific in a way that maybe not everyone is. I think the chance of American survival the chance of world survival goes up as America becomes stronger and more dominant.
But do you worry about AI outrunning any of us, any state?
Okay, but I also worry about the ceiling falling. Like again, there's an odds question. My primary specialization is what can you build software that's going to make America, its allies, industry, and military dominant? And I believe that if you do it, the third, fourth derivative of a lot of these questions go away.
Okay, so in a way, what he's exactly describing is this Cold War arms race. We have to have all the nukes mentality.
Yeah.
Of this mutually armed destruction view that if we can't wipe out our enemies, then we lose.
Well, that's why I use the term culture specific.
Yeah. No, it's
them.
actually really eye-opening for me to hear him say that. I realize this is the Cold War mentality. This is I have to be able, I don't care if we destroy humanity, if we wipe out all life on Earth 1,000 times over by launching our entire arsenal, at least we didn't lose to the fucking commies, right? That is that same Dr. Strangelove psycho belief system that, and thankfully, people who had an ounce of humanity, who actually had their fingers on the button when we came so close all these times to nuclear annihilation, were like, you know what? I'm not doing it. And we got lucky. We got lucky multiple times, both
Yeah.
Americans and Russians, right? Who were like, I'm not fucking wiping out humanity. Like, I know what this power is, but Alex, this guy, Alex Karp, he would gladly wipe out humanity if it meant that he didn't have to lose to someone else or the perception that he lost to someone else. This is crazy.
Let's hope that time will give him more clarity in that.
Palantir's beat the analysts' estimates 21 quarters in a row, and you just had a great forecast, and yet your stock got hammered. What is it the markets are missing?
But honestly, hammered is a little. I think we're up something like 180. I don't know what we're up. I mean, I don't track it, but the market price has been more accurate than the analyst price. So I would invert it. It's like, what does the market understand that the analysts can't understand? And I would say, what the market has historically understood with that many, not all analysts, the analysts want to do what I would call, I don't know, the journalists that you don't hire do. They've got a frame. That frame is the frame that was developed in the 50s.
So thinking too small, too rigid, too narrow.
So yes, but then there's a thing. That frame does not allow you to disambiguate between weak, medium, weak, strong, and baller product. Weak, medium, strong, baller culture.
Baller status.
Weak, medium, and to the extent, and then.
And you're saying you're baller.
I mean, that's what the market seems to be saying. I don't know. I'm just modest over here. You say the analysts care about X. What I'm saying is way upstream of that are assumptions that they control that at the end of the day come down to who they like and don't like.
And you're saying they don't like you.
Well, of course they don't like me. But you know why they didn't like me? Because, I mean, it's not just in fairness, not the analysts, honestly. I actually, in some ways, aligned with analysts but it's like, here I am, somebody who should be, like whatever, should not be where I am. I'm having a lot of fun, mostly. We have the most baller, interesting company on the planet. I'm not ashamed of that. We're rolling out. We're defending Western values. We are completely meritocratic. I'm not the person that should be having this much fun. And that annoys many journalists, not all. It annoys many academics, almost all. It annoys all sorts of purveyors of dysfunction because they want to sit. Again, I think the average, Ivy League grad voting for this mayor is highly annoyed that their education is not that valuable. And the person down the street who knows how to drill for oil and gas, who's moved to Texas, has a more valuable profession. And I think that annoys the fuck out of these people.
You got a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, Alex, huh?
It sounds just like Tate and another like grifter, selfish personality.
It is, except he's the CEO of a surveillance company. So hold on, I just want to look. Grew up Philadelphia, biracial household. I didn't realize. Okay. Politically active parents exposed to civil rights activism from an early age. Strong affinity to fighting discrimination. Alex, what the fuck happened, bro? Bachelor of Arts from Haverford, JD from Stanford, pursued a PhD in Germany and completed it. Okay. Research associate at the Sigmund Freud Institute in Frankfurt. Academic background, philosophy, social theory. Does not drive, practices Tai Chi and cross-country skiing, and leads meditation sessions at Palantir. Identifies as a progressive and socialist. I mean, to be fair, on the socialist part, I mean, he is talking about advocating for working people, and he's talking about, he really does have a Pol Pot-esque, right? Like, shoot anyone who's got clean hands type of vibe to what he's saying. So that's actually, I am hearing that, and it's interesting to see that in his background. But this is an angry dude. He feels like, remember when we talked about who goes Nazi, and one of the archetypes was the guy who felt slighted and excluded from society just because he didn't come from the right circles, and the others looked down on him. Mm-hmm. Like, he is giving me that vibe right now.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by, like, I have like a financial background, and I'm always upset about markets and analysts and things like that. But basically the difference is analysts look at numbers. The market itself does not. It's usually a momentum play at this point. Mm-hmm. So they just follow where the money goes. The analysts are looking at, well, this is what you're doing. This is what they think you're going to do based on historical data. The market is not like that at all. That's why you have bubbles,
Yep.
Mr. Karp. So I don't really catch his drift on that. But if he has like a socialist inkling, why was he so upset about the mayor of New York?
Yeah, exactly. Why are you bitching and moaning about a Democratic socialist mayor if you claim to be a socialist? He claims to be a socialist. He's not a socialist. He's saying that for street cred, right? But his values clearly are not aligned with it. But you're right. The markets themselves, the movements of stocks are just so much momentum based, right? And vibe based upon what's going on inside of that community, right? The investment community and what's happening there. The analysts are just there basically running a model and calculating based off of what they understand your existing business is, what those contracts are worth, what business you brought in, right? The news and information about that, and what business you've been losing, where you're looking to play, and basically coming up with a mathematical model to be like, hey, we think this is what your earnings are going to be. So if you've beat earnings 21 quarters in a row, that means you're bringing in more business than you're expecting, which probably means you're hiding an element of it. Also, you're probably not giving good guidance
Right.
as to what, from management to the analysts of what they should be expecting. And so for him to be acting all like miffed that, the street, right, the market is disrespecting him, right, which you can easily kind of tell that he's feeling disrespected. It doesn't really jive with how that market works. Like they could be spot on 21 quarters in a row if he gave them good guidance and he was open and honest about how the company's doing.
Yeah, and if you are if you're a really good analyst and you really know what you're doing and you're honest, it's not very easy to give a company, PE multiples of 100 and 200 in a logical way.
Yeah. And you got to remember, right, there's the other angle of that is these investment banks, right, and the major financial players, they own baskets of these shares, right? They are shareholders themselves because that's how the whole IPO and the underwriting process goes when these companies go public. And so they're massive holders. They're issuing their recommendations based on whether they want to buy and hold those stocks or they want to start to sell them. Mm-hmm. And if they want to sell them, they'll give you a glowing rec, right? They'll be like, this company's amazing while they're quietly selling on the back end. But if they believe in Palantir, they might be underselling it so that other people are out there selling it so that they can be buying it cheaper so that they can net the profits. They're not stupid. Sure. That's how it works.
And at this moment in time, Palantir has a PE ratio of almost 400. So what analyst in his right mind is going to be able to appropriately rationalize that kind of growth that is being factored into this? It's almost a $400 billion company. Palantir's high was 200. It's around 160 now. So that's like a 20% drop. So like, what did the market know then that it doesn't know now?
Down 4% today.
So what kind of his logic is so flawed? Because if the market tanks down to 100, so it's 50% lower, what's changed? What did the market not realize, 2-3 months ago?
Anyway, and he's clearly mad about this. There's a reason you and I are talking about this for several minutes at this point now. Like, this is not a happy dude. This is not happy-go-lucky. This isn't a guy who's going to run a Tai Chi class in the office as soon as the interviewer leaves.
Yeah. All right, let's watch this douchebag some more.
When you talk about politics, you sound like a reluctant Trumper. What would Democrats need to do to get you back?
What I've been telling Democrats, and not just Democrats, established shape people in Europe, where I get a lot of calls, and all over the world, is you first of all, the idea that somehow it's a God-given right of people of widely divergent cultures to come to our culture, and here I mean America, but I've given this advice for the last 20 years, is not only inane, it goes against actual empirical experience, and none of your voters want it. And if you make this into some kind of bigotry, like we have to take everyone or we're a bigot, they're going to vote for people who actually are bigoted or not. And then I would say to my Democratic friends, also of which I still have, I hope many, you have to grow a spine, because a lot of these people actually agree with me in private. Do you know the percentage of Democrats who know that nothing Mondani's saying can ever work is very high?
Just elected mayor here in New York.
And they all, and like, if you talk to them in private, they'll be like, yeah, that can never work. Okay, sorry, you asked a question, I'll give you an answer. we're in a world where you have to start speaking up. If someone is saying something you know can never work, let's just take it. There's a reason in this election why the people who voted for him are disproportionately are not actually aligned with underclass voters. Underclass voters would have voted for Cuomo.
So who do you think should be speaking up? Who's not?
Everybody who agrees with me in private. I run around, I get yelled at all the time for Ukraine, ICE, Israel,
Okay,
and generally telling the truth, which I
Generally.
So first off, the crowds, Alex, you run around in are your Silicon Valley libertarian buddies, right? So you're not exactly not living in a bubble when it comes to whom you actually talk to about this sort of shit, right? You hear him. I guess I have some democratically aligned friends left. Like, yeah, clearly you didn't talk to them because you're just speculating on what they might think, because they're clearly either you don't have any, they're not talking to you, or you have them and they don't talk to you about this shit, right? Because he's got some pretty strong opinions on this. But I love the fact that he's like, this can't work. This can't work. Well, why not? It hasn't been tried. We're not trying it this way. It doesn't benefit him to do it this way. And this is the fundamental thing you and I have talked about, right? Is like, why can't we just get around proper proportional representation? And, why can't we actually fix the issues of government? Because it's not profitable to do so. And Alex is one of these people who profits immensely from these inefficiencies in the way our country runs and the way the economy is structured. And he benefits disproportionately from it. And so he has no incentive to see things improve on his watch because it hurts his pocket.
So much for socialism, Alex.
I mean, again, it's what we said last time. Look, guillotines are wonderful, but the best thing you could do to rich people like Alex is turn them into poor people. And make them actually live the lives that they are. He's talking about how wonderful it is for a guy who can bend steel to be out there living because he's going to be so valuable. Cool. Why don't you go fucking do it yourself? And then you tell us how your back feels after a day of that.
Yeah, it's like, just what is his definition of working? Is it because the United States has been an established country for 200 plus years? Is that defined as established? And people getting poorer and poorer every single year, like that line keeps going up. Is that working? No. Does what Mamdani want to do going to work? Probably not, because the mayor doesn't have that power to do most of those things.
But you know what?
He needs a lot of people on board.
To Mamdani's credit, I mean, one of the first things he accomplished was he made the daycare, right, the child care, free, right? It's now covered, and that saves families thousands to tens of thousands, depending on how many kids they have, per year. That is money back in citizens' pockets. And that is just an objectively good thing. This is what we touched on this when we talked about Tate and Shapiro the other day, right? When we were going through that is, the cost, we've offloaded the cost of so many things from a social perspective to an individual perspective, when we now have to pay privately out of pocket because we're told this is the best, this is how enterprise works, you should have as much choice as possible, and you should choose to pay for it yourself because that is the American way. Yet that's made life expensive and out of reach for so many people. And we can see it. The result is we're not having as many kids and our population growth is slowing, if not negative at this point, because it's just too damn expensive to maintain a quality of life and have all the things that our parents' generation had.
Just like the lack of caring is just mind-numbing. I understand like people's like opinions and stuff like that, and maybe you can't have universal child care right away for all ages. Then you know what? You start at, say, everybody universal pre-K for everybody. Then you start working your way down another year, another 2 years, until you make it work. Just like you do with public education. It found a way to work.
One of the most shocking things to me, I don't know if it was to you, but just like as a parent, learning that pre-K, like universal pre-K, is not a thing in so many places.
Right.
It depends on your school district. And I was like, I went to kindergarten, right? I remember, these schools that I went to, and I'm like, wait, what do you mean not everyone has access to this? How is that not a thing that is just generally accepted and demanded in our society? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's very new here. I mean, my kid was I think the second year they had it. He was there and it's a lottery. You had to get in and you had to hopefully get to the school you wanted. Otherwise you had to travel to that school. And now it just is proliferating, but That's a good thing. And I will pay a few extra dollars a year for that. Yes, it's my kid, but my kid's not using it anymore. But I will continue to pay for that to know that other kids have that opportunity.
I mean, your alternative is you have and undereducated kids. Well, if you don't have that basis for why and are shown like, here's what you can work towards, have the opportunity to achieve and accomplish, you're going to get, you're going to get idiots like Alex Karp who are out here, screaming that they're a socialist and yet telling everyone to go fuck themselves when they have an actual socialist idea.
Yeah. And all those families who have to live paycheck to paycheck to put them in the daycares because they have to work jobs, both parents nowadays, so they're not home. They have to put them in daycare, and daycare is expensive. No matter the cheapest form of daycare, you're thousands and thousands of dollars. That's a lot of money. It was like $1,000 a year. I mean, not sorry, $1,000 a year, $1,000 a month. That's a lot of money for daycare. You're working just to put your kid in school.
Mm-hmm. No, it's crazy. I remember I kind of extrapolated like what the cost was to send our kid to daycare. And I was like, this is the cost of a private school education. Like this is private tuition at a low end school for a full year. I'm like, this is absolutely bonkers, right? What this is costing me. I was having this conversation with a friend not long ago. He basically just, to boil it down to oversimplify, he was complaining about taxes, right? Like he's like, we're so overtaxed. I'm like, part of the problem and part of why you think that is you don't perceive the benefits that you're receiving from that taxation. Now, part of it is you don't get enough benefits from the money you're spending, and that is true. But you're also constantly, politicians, right, and talking heads and media members and, opinion makers of one political alignment or another are constantly putting down the benefits you are getting from your tax money that is being put into effect, and often is focused on waste and fraud and corruption, right? The kind of incidents that get headlines because it's a waste of that kind of money. And now suddenly you don't feel you're getting anything and you see that it's being used for crime, right? Just broadly speaking. And you go, why the fuck am I paying any of this, instead of going, how can we better use this, right? How can we be more efficient and smarter about this?
Yes. Why can't we put up more guardrails to ensure that the things that my tax dollars are going to actually go there and are used for those things?
What was that?
I can't imagine anybody's like, I want to shit on all schools. I don't have a kid anymore in this, so I shouldn't have to pay for this. But you did all those other years.
In a sense. And I think to your point, I would probably disagree with you, right? You said more guardrails, more, guidelines and this and that. I feel like that people think there's too many guidelines and guardrails around public money as it currently is, especially when it comes to benefits and things of this nature. I would maybe argue the opposite. Make it freer. Make that money more freely available for a broader range of uses with less oversight. But
I'm looking at guardrails to prevent people from siphoning the money off so easily. Like you see, like every year you get somebody in your town or whatever, we don't know where the money went. We can't account for it. Like, what do you mean you can't account for where? What have you been doing the last 5 years? Yeah, we don't know what's gone.
There's a balance between making it available and making it inaccessible, right? There's like a happy medium, and you have to accept that someone's going to game the system and try to use it for bad purposes regardless, right? So the answer there really is, in a lot of ways, look, prosecute those people, make them pay it back. Put Mark Shapiro, right? Defrauds $23 million from investors, put him in prison for 85 fucking years and leave him there. Don't let him out when he does these sort of things, right? Punish these people, go after them, and make it understandable that, hey, yeah, you could cheat the system, you could fuck around, and you're going to find out.
Yes, and the penalties have to be severe. It can't be like 2 years for grifting millions of dollars, which you've already spent on Chanel bags and jewelry that you can never pay back.
Yep.
The punishment can't be like a couple years and then you just get out and that's it. I think if financial crime was basically as horrific time spent as like a murder, there'd be a lot less financial crime. But like you said yesterday about poor people get to do the time and rich people get to run free.
Okay, great. I get yelled at in private, in public, in family settings here, and in business section. And I've had customers say, hey, I don't want to work with you because any of those views are all of the above. Tell you what, I also have a lot of people are like, yeah, I agree with you. I just could never say that. Like, especially in Europe, what I get is
So you're saying more people should be more candid?
No, I'm just saying, hey, no, I'm saying if you're not candid, you're going to get these results.
How worried are you about the Nick Fuentes wing of MAGA?
Well, first of all, I feel like I'm much more qualified to critique what was been my own party, although I've historically, Palantir's been the most anti-woke company. And like one of the things it's really crazy when people are like attacking us online and like, you say that now. We've been saying a lot of things that would have gotten you fired or put out of business for 20 years, including meritocracy, borders, use violence to not do neocon bullshit for 20 years and saying it when it wasn't popular. I think almost all of these movements are downstream from the fact that the people who sign up for these things that are like obviously not sensible do not believe they're going to participate in this society economically. And
well, let's be specific. So
he's scared of them.
anti-Semitism is one of your signature issues.
Actually, honestly, again, that's how people frame it. How about stupid discrimination, of which anti-Semitism is a form?
Okay.
So
stipulate to that. Nick Fuentes is a part of the Republican conservative movement that's getting increasing attention, has increasing attention, increasing voice. How concerned are you about that? And what does that tell you?
It's again, you always have to disambiguate concern and do you have a legitimate, like I have a legitimate, I'll answer your question, but I have a completely legitimate, authentic voice in the progressive democratic movement because that's been my whole life. And so I feel like when I'm screaming about that, they really should listen, even if they don't. When, I'm probably just at this point an independent who admires what Trump has done in it on many things. And I think anybody who's not deranged would acknowledge these things. And sure would I, so I think I don't have the credibility to start throwing a hissy about what happens in the Republican Party. And I'll also say both parties, and again, let me just go to the party where I have more credibility, like the way in which the Democrats just completely neglect males. Like there is nothing wrong, and it's admirable to be a somewhat to high testosterone male. And it's.
Did you know that was the case?
Oh my God. Just Google image search Alex Karp and you'll see the lowest low T beta soy boy cuck bullshit that he rants about all the time. I find it wild though that a guy who is half black and half Jewish can't even find the fucking spine to denounce a rabid anti-Semite who's a Trump supporter. That is wild to me. He is so fixated for a guy who claims to be a socialist, a guy who claims to be in progressive circles, to not be able to denounce an outright anti-Semite is bonkers. He's so in this manosphere bullshit that he can't disassociate the two from each other.
Well, because he's a businessman now and Trump is in power and that's where he needs to be. So he doesn't give a shit about his moral values. It's the money and the power.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, he sold it for a bag of cash. But yeah, just be honest about it. Just be open. Be like, nope, like I sold out. Crazy.
Yeah.
So like you have the general vibe in the Democratic Party that it's like there's something wrong. I don't know. Like I just like, yeah, there's some way in which I don't find it very appealing as a dude. I don't think most dudes do. It's a huge problem and you can't address it. My primary issue on political stuff is not exactly in being slightly unfair to your question. I think the primary issue for America is, do we have a closed border? At this point, I'm kind of a single issue voter. It's like, is the border closed or is it open? Like Europe is an unmitigated disaster because of like unfettered, stupid migration.
Of all the people you've met, who would make the best president? Who do you think should be the next president?
The president that will legitimately, credibly say the border's staying closed, or there'll be common sense cultural standards used on top of just pure IQ, and the president that can really really credibly fight for workers. So like, sorry,
That sounds like the current Vice President J.D. Vance.
I'm not. I'm just gonna. You asked a question. I'm giving you an answer. The way I would judge it. Well,
As someone
the
who
way
gives
I
me a
would judge it
boatload
is
of money.
who
Bitchy.
is the person who actually believes and will implement things that make working class Americans healthier and wealthier. And yeah,
That sounds
I
like
just want to
Vice
point
President
out
J.D. Vance
that
raised in.
he shits all over, Yale educated, right? Ivy League educated people. And then at the same time, he's saying we only need to let high IQ people in, which traditionally corresponds to education, right? And people who have high academic achievement. So I love workers. I love workers. I hate the intelligentsia, but we should only allow the intelligentsia in. And I'm going to say cultural standards to avoid saying white people.
Yeah. And wasn't he use his brains to figure out, well, the reason why all these migrants come into the country is
Yep.
because they're afraid to live in their own country because of the drugs that we buy.
Because of the missile strikes that are dictated by Palantir's fucking algorithm telling battlefield commanders this is the optimal place where you should blow up shit. It doesn't matter that it's a town of 300 brown people with low IQs and no marketable skills in our economy. They're just collateral damage. So blow it up. Then they all start fucking streaming into Europe. They start streaming into America because they're looking for refuge from the war that we're bringing to their front because of companies, because of systems and processes like Palantir's. Yeah, he's completely ignoring it. I also, once again, talking about cultural, Alex, which part of you culturally is acceptable? Is it the Jewish part or is it the African American part? Which one of those two? Which one of those
look like
two
there's much
groups-
African American in this guy.
It doesn't, but that's what his bio says, so that's what I'm going with. But yeah, culturally, which one of those two is going to continue to be allowed to come into this country, Alex? So if we're allowing both of them, so who do you mean by culture exactly? Is it Asians? Is it Arabs? Indians? Like which group of people here are we excluding?
You people. What do you mean, you people?
Yeah, is there like someone going like, oh, they're Spanish Hispanic, not like Central American Hispanic, so they're classy and okay. Like that's you're really cutting those lines thin.
healthier and wealthier. And yeah,
That sounds like Vice President J.D. Vance raised in Appalachia. Do you like him? Do you think he should be president?
You're asking lots of political questions, and I obviously support a lot of what the president does. I'm just going to say, you asked a question, I can answer, and I'll tell you to
He doesn't make a lot of eye contact, does he?
No.
go back to your other questions. The problem on the Democratic side is if you're honest in private, it's now a party repping people with non-domain specific knowledge who are kind of and not the working class.
Is there someone you'd like to see as the leader on that side?
But anyone who reps this, like it's like, for me, it's the issues. It's like, I know it's kind of like, I don't think a politician has to connect with the people, but I'm not a politician, nor is it a job for me to be one. I connect with the two issues. When I would say it's basically, what's going to happen to the working class, and is the border closed, which is basically the same issue.
I gotta say, I do respect the fact that I get why he's not giving it name because he doesn't want to be tied to that when it backfires on him later. But I do respect the fact that he is saying part of what he's saying. I don't know if he's meaning to do this or it's just because he's trying to avoid being, attached at the hip to a name that he says on an interview. But we shouldn't be worshiping politicians. We shouldn't be hoping that so-and-so it becomes the hero we need to deliver us from some sort of problem, right? It should be about dealing with the issues in a non-egotistical, cult of personality manner, which is contrary to how our political system works currently. I don't think that's his intention behind why he's saying it, but he is touching on it.
Yeah, he's very big on the border closing.
Yeah, huge.
A biography of you that just came out. You had a lot of cooperation. On balance, was very positive to you. You're worth 17 billion or 18 billion, but most people don't realize that you came from very little. You told me a story about a jewelry store in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. You grew up in the Philadelphia suburbs. there was a landlord there who owned a jewelry store. Do tell.
Well, it's in the book, and honestly, there's so many stories I would not have told, not because, I don't know. But in any case, my mom was totally fucked. Someone helped her. I paid them back.
And that person was a landlord, gave her and you a place to live. And they still own a jewelry store. And how did you?
I just buy a lot of stuff from them.
To this day.
Yeah.
And what is there for others to learn from that?
Very few people will help you. And it's like her, the helping my mom, Mrs. Schneider, kind of helped me. A bunch of people. In general, people don't help you, which is totally okay. But the ones that do are special.
And something that Palantir is doing is you have a fellowship now for...
Clearly, he's affected by that. Alex, why don't we... It's special when people help you. You're screaming, close the borders against people who need help. Like, let's start applying this standard to how we live our lives every day. Like, this shouldn't be a controversial thing. Be good to people. We should be doing more good for more people, not less of it. Clearly, he's not full of shit. I believe that story. Like, he was choked up there, right? Like, so let's lean into that. Everything he's talking about, everything he's doing is contrary to that. It's nice that he's paying those people back for helping him, but like, dude, let's expand that circle a little bit.
You're such a big Trump supporter. You know, he could just go to these countries and say, hey, listen, fucking be good to your people. We're going to blow you up and kidnap you. They might start doing something and stop deporting. People might stop running away.
High school students, people without degrees, without credentials. You just tried the inaugural class. What did you learn from that? And are you going to do more of that?
I learned there's a lot of very talented people who would be better off learning domain-specific things than being indoctrinated at quasi-elite schools that don't value them. I've learned, and I hope that other people will copy this. And we're going to do more and more. It's good for the nation. It's great for Palantir.
And so you don't necessarily have to go to college to be successful. And it sounds like you're going to invest more in vocational training, high school training.
Well, yeah, we probably should do that too. But first of all, we just kicked it off. We were the first company, I think, to do this. I think other people, we've had actually nations. The interesting thing is we have a number of nations call us, like at the national level, and saying, hey, we want to learn from this. Is it outside
from the high school program?
Yeah, It's one of the more fascinating things is, I mean, I can't give details, but we have like a nation state saying, could you come over and teach us how to do this?
And are you going to do it?
Yeah, of course.
And what are you going to teach them, or what is the secret?
Well, selection. How do you select? How do you train? How do you provide, like, what we're doing with them? By the way, it's not indoctrination. It's really interesting. People think we're just like, you come here and you learn there's only one way to do something ideologically. No, we're exposing them to a wide swath of kind of core
because there's like a Western Civ element to it.
Yeah, but it's like Western Civ, and then we have a lot of people actually who've built things coming in. So we've had a lot of ex-Palantirians, current Palantirians. I don't know. Some of the people may not want to be named, like titans of industry. Like, you'd be a perfect person. Come in. What does it mean to be a journalist? What does it mean to manage journalists? What does it mean to build a company? What are the assumptions? What have I learned? What does it mean to be selective? I mean, like, we want, and then like what you won't hear, by the way, we have like very prominent establishment progressives. Like we just want to, I would say one of the things that I'm pretty adamant about is I actually care less about ideology and more about, is this person at the pinnacle of their success?
So as we say goodbye here, you just turned 58. You look a lot less. You just put on this skiing gear. What is your latest longevity hack?
You have to do technical Norwegian style cardiovascular training. Look that up. It's a longer story, but the normal cardiovascular training is basically at a certain level not so valuable.
And then just some framing, bracketing, as you would say, for our viewers. So Norway has by far the most medals in the Winter Olympics. And your theory is that it's because of this kind of training.
Well, it's not just because of that, but I think if you did a regression of all humans with VO2s above 90, you would find 98% were Norwegian. And there's probably a genetic element, but there's
Yeah. How many track medals does Norway have? What a fucking idiot.
You know what's surprising is the country that is surrounded by mountains and socked in
Snow.
winter 10 months out of the year is really good at winter activities. This is shocking information.
Oh my god. That's like it's snow. That's what gives them the advantage in the Winter Olympics.
It's kind of like when you look at soccer, right? Soccer has two things. You have either large population, poor countries where literally the only thing the kids can afford is a ball and an open field to go kick around in. And then you have wealthy countries that can pour tons of money into training and coaching and all sorts of like super technical elements to improve them. And they're both competitive on the world stage.
Yeah, that's why football is such an American sport because it's fucking expensive as hell.
Yeah,
All that equipment. So I mean, God, this guy.
Why are all the best countries at ice hockey? Yeah, frozen countries in the north. Like, why is there not a Kenyan ice hockey team? There's a reason. There's not a lot of ice in Kenya, so you're not going to be training for that, right? But what do you have in Kenya? You've got elevations of Kilimanjaro. You've got lots of open lands. You've got good long distance runners, right? Like the geography and the culture impact what the people are going to be naturally good at. And if you're in a country that engages in a lot of winter sports because you've got a lot of snow and mountains lying around, you're naturally going to start to produce a higher concentration of those people.
Yep. And look at that. We're not even geniuses, and we figured that out.
Idiots.
which is basically being very careful about when you're in zone 1 and zone 4 and not being in zone 2. And then people should just look it up with that. And then what I've changed now is every second or third day I do pure strength. And I used to do just that and kind of endurance strength, but I think that really helps. And then I do like, I think something meditative, like I do Tai Chi every day. I think those
That's
are
the Chinese martial art. How does that change your life?
Well, if you're an entrepreneur doing something that like elicits cortisone, you want something that rebalances your like softer and harder energy. And it does that. And it helps with sleep a lot.
You told me that you looked at me and you said, I've been sleeping more. How much do you sleep?
I mean, I'm primarily a creative human. My best work is done if I get 8 hours sleep. I can't always do that because I'm traveling and it's hard, but I really strive for 8 hours quality sleep because what I notice is I just feel better. My brain works better. And yeah.
Alex Karp, thanks for mixing it up with the Axios show.
Thank you.
All right. It's interesting.
Yeah, learned a lot about Mr. Alex Karp.
He has lots of contradictions and multitudes in that man.
I love that he's so progressive.
Yeah. I'm so
and he's
progressive.
a Trump supporter.
I'm super progressive, but I hate everyone who isn't American. Like it's this Western cultural hegemony that a lot of these libertarian Silicon Valley types have jumped onto that dovetails nicely with, this whole what America First concept was supposed to be, right? And kind of what all these groypers, right, the Nick Fuentes guys are all jumping on, the Proud Boys. It's all about Western culture, Western cultural hegemony. And again, it's ironic to have a mixed race man from two severely put upon cultures complain about open borders, especially cultures that are put upon or have historically been in America.
Bit of a lack of self-awareness. A lot of grief for running like a lot of the systems that ICE uses.
Yeah, I mean they work with a lot of people who do a lot of questionable shit. I mean, look, in the end, he is a linchpin of the surveillance state, and that is a surveillance state that is taking in progressively more and more of our private data. Right? If you're the type of person who doesn't believe in national IDs and all sorts of, the government knowing who you are, where you are, and how to get in touch with you. Like, he's at the linchpin of everything you should hate. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's where Doge comes in and takes in all sorts of social security numbers and other, privately identifying information, where they violate all sorts of data laws around that sort of stuff. He's where they come in and they're hacking, basically they're popping into Ring doorbells and able to watch the street outside your house to know what you're doing when you're leaving, what you're up to, and what's going on. These ties directly into flock safety, which is going up all around the country in all sorts of municipalities, which is being billed as basically closed circuit TV surveillance systems for municipalities to track who's coming and going. Again, this is the government, the surveillance state, watching your every single move. This is shit that exists in places like the UK and China. You don't hear a lot of these guys complaining about the UK doing it and having these closed circuit TVs everywhere, but they'll scream till they're fucking, passing out on the floor, gasping for air about how China is a totalitarian, authoritarian police state that's watching you everywhere you go, right? Because they do the exact same thing. Yet he's tied into similar systems here. There are also drone companies that integrate with his software and his services that, yeah, they can survey remote utility lines and things of that nature and do like remote search and rescue operations because it's a big damn country, right? We cover a continent over here, but they also work those systems with local police forces and state police forces to track and monitor neighborhoods. So if you do see a random drone flying around in a pretty consistent pattern, it could be your local stateies or county cops or whatnot who got access to one of these systems, and it's being powered by Palantir, and it's filling into one of their operating systems and mixing data right there.
I really find that a lot of these people in the left and the right and everywhere in between, for the most part, are really missing the point and missing the thread. I just wanted to look at a random year. In 2010, ICE removed almost 400,000 illegal alien immigrants, and to about 200,000 were convicted criminals. Now that's a little more than half of what they've done. The United States has done in 2025. Plus, the United States gave away, money to deport people, which was like in the millions. They deported themselves. So we could have always done that, I guess. But is the value of deporting an extra 100,000, 200,000 people to turn yourself into like savages, is that worth it? Has anything like changed dramatically in those years from deporting 400,000 to deporting 600,000? Or is it your decency and your moral values that you're giving up in order just to get a little bit of higher number? It just doesn't make any sense. And I think that is the thread that's always being lost. It has nothing to do with closing borders and having illegal people leave this country. It's being so aggressive about it and not working to try to mitigate the flow to begin with.
What are the numbers? It's something like, yeah, you're right. It's missing the thread that's there. Like, think about it. Right now we have this massive ICE deployment to Minnesota. The justification for that deployment is this state level social welfare fraud that's been going on. That's been happening for years, that they've indicted over something about 100 people. They've convicted some 65 of them, right? So 2/3 of everyone who's been charged has been arrested and indicted and forced to pay restitution so far. And there's some 140,000 migrants, immigrants, whatever term you want to use, in Minnesota, right? There's there's over 2 million in Texas. There's some 1.2 million in Florida. Why, if this is really about addressing these random 3,000 arrests per day numbers that Stephen Miller puts out there for immigration, right, for ICE to hit, why are you going to Minnesota? If you're trying to actually catch those numbers, you're going to Texas, you're going to Florida, but you're not doing that, right? Because the optics aren't there. They want to be able to attack quote unquote blue state, and they want to kind of delegitimize the governance there and those politicians. If you're actually trying to get this arbitrary 3,000 arrests a day number that Stephen Miller wants, you don't go to Minnesota when 140,000 immigrants. You go to Texas, you go to Florida, right? You go to the actual border states where these people are coming in. That's not about that. It's not about any of it.
If we're willing to give 1.9 million to illegal aliens, apparently voluntarily self-deported, because we encourage them to give them a flight home for Christmas and $1,000, Maybe you need to offer 2,000, and you don't even have to. You could not pay the. I mean, think about it. If you're paying $50,000 to hire an ICE agent, that's a lot of money. You could just pay to people who get deported. You don't even need to hire them. Save a shit ton of money.
We talked about this in our episodes on ICE and the U.S. building the world's largest civil concentration camps. This was a decision that started during the Reagan administration because of the Mariel boat lift from Cuba and the Haitian boat people who were fleeing the Duvalier and his regime in Haiti. We did not incarcerate immigrants to this country, legal or illegal, at all. Immigration is an administrative, it's a civil matter. It is not a criminal matter. And until Reagan, we didn't start incarcerating people under this system. And now, once again, 40 years later, 45 years later, we've gone from incarcerating people that are part of a civil administrative case and not a criminal case to arming the agents who enforce that law. Again, it is a jobs program for aspiring Jan Sixers and rewarding MAGA for their faith throughout the years, right? That's what the $50,000 is for. Yeah, because just like you're sitting on an airline and they're trying to bump people to the next flight, if you just offer these people $2,000 and the next flight home, they're going to take it because they're going to be like, look, some of them, it wasn't so bad where they came from. They're not at risk of dying. And they're like, this is too much paperwork. I don't want to wait too long. I didn't realize this would take forever. I'm out of here, right? Like, send me back. It's home. I miss home. I thought this would be better, and it's not.
We've hired another extra 12,000 ICE agents, I guess, in 2025, or since Trump has taken office. So
yeah, it's when they used to
so
be like
we've
10
almost
grand.
Doubled it. We've
We've
doubled it, but we have not doubled the amount of people we have captured. We did 3 times as many deportations if we paid them. So come on, people. We have no intention of deporting. If we deported everybody tomorrow, we're still going to have these ICE agents roaming around and they're going to be looking for new people.
No, there's no reason to be doing it the way we're doing it. The reason to be doing it the way you're doing it is for the political optics of it. Because you've got Stephen Miller up there screaming about illegal criminal migration and all the violence in these gangs, right? And you've got Trump taking his notes from him. You've got Kristi Noem going out there saying, I'm doing what Stephen is telling me to do, right? I mean, holy shit, she said that last night. The Nuremberg defense doesn't pass. Apparently none of these people read a fucking history book at any point, but that's the approach that they're taking. Yeah, no, there's no reason to be murdering white people in the street to accomplish a lot less. And by the way, guess what? This is your tax money. This is where it's going. If you complain that taxes are too high, this is a giant waste of money, a colossal waste of government money to fix a problem that could be addressed much more cheaply and much more humanely.
Yeah, just to create 12,000 jobs.
Well, I mean, what is it? Ultimately, over the next couple of years, they're budgeting 50,000 people, I believe was the number, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, right? I mean, that the ICE budget increase that came in this year was part of a multi-year step up in increase. And I think we now have 100,000 beds. Again, so listen to our episode on ICE concentration camps, right, from a couple of weeks ago. We're aiming for tripling. Yeah, we were something at like 40 or 50,000 beds that we had at the end of 2024, and they're aiming for over 100,000. Plus, right? We're looking at somewhat triple the number of overnight beds that we have for incarcerating people.
It seems foolish if your goal is to get rid of illegal immigrants. Therefore, it should be a depreciating number. It should be a declining number consistently, especially if you've gotten rid of almost 2 million already. So if you keep that pace up in just a number of years, you're going to have very few here. Why the hell are you building so much? Why are you hiring so much?
I think
just the beginning.
And Alex Karp touched on this a bit, and it's one of those things like, look, you want to improve migration flows from cultures and the types of people, right? Educated people, whatever criteria you want to put, ethnic groups, whatever, fine. I'm not going to argue that at the moment. You want to improve flows to this country, right? You want to make America a place that's hot, to use Trump's terminology, right? You want it to be a country that's a destination for people. Make it better for the people. Stop privatizing every fucking thing. Stop wasting money by blowing up ICE's budget and giving them tens of billions of dollars. Instead, use that money to provide universal daycare so that families can have as many kids as they want and not have to worry about the additional cost eating into their pocket, right? Bring back subsidized higher education so that these kids can go into college and, to Alex Karp's point, go into job training and vocational programs that are going to prepare them for the real world and for the needs of employers, right? That's where the money should be going to. And that's money you can use out of the existing budget without increasing taxes.
Yeah, the math don't math.
Now, Angry White Men, now streaming on YouTube near you. Bye, all.